You're making money, Studio One is humming, you're getting a bit bored, so you think, let's open another one. Happens all the time, right?
Shiny object syndrome.
For you, why do you reckon so many studio owners jump into a second location before they're ready?
I think it's...
There's definitely more than just having one good studio, if that's the way you want to go, but it's not the way that we're seeing it play out more often than not.
If you get it right, there's a chance to play a much bigger game. Where I'm going to push back on this is if you haven't nailed it in your first studio, what gives you the right to think you're going to nail it when you're 10?
So what are the biggest lies that people tell themselves before they scale?
The first mistake they make is like, do you have a framework for how people know if they're ready for this?
Yeah, we've got like a Studio 2 readiness check. Go through. Super easy. It's basically... All right, we're back, dude.
Let's go.
So, look, we've got a lot of people in our academy and we hear about it all the time. People turn up to our sales calls like this coming into Drummo Academy and they come in our orbit, they listen to this podcast episode and they come to us because they're somewhere between one studio and opening the second studio. And in that process, the first studio is starting to dip.
Second studio syndrome.
It happens all the time, right? So the big thing that I want to say right now is if you're even thinking about opening a second studio, this episode could either save your business or your sanity.
Oof.
So, because what happens is, I can tell you what normally happens. Dude, we did this exact same thing. We went from 1 to 2 as well. So,
do you remember why? Like, what was our motivation to go from 1 to 2?
we got fucking egged on to do it, really.
We got
But ultimately, we wanted to see if it was a fluke to like what we did with Studio One. Like, we took that thing up to $1 million. It was like, could we do it again? Like, are we pros for doing it once, or actually could we replicate it?
Yeah, and I think naively as well, I think that we thought, well, 2 studios is just twice the money, right? But what we realized was the first thing that happens is the only thing you double straight away is all your costs.
And all your fucking headaches.
Yeah.
And all your fucking headaches. Like, things that you could gloss over became really big problems. Everything multiplied, everything amplified. Now, we thought we were scaling, and these people that I'm talking about, like, think they're scaling, but most of the time we're actually multiplying the chaos. And do you remember what it was? It was like, we thought we could just copy and paste the success of one studio to the other because it was 10 minutes down one road.
In the same franchise network.
In the same network. Yeah. How hard could it be? Like, the second studio might as well have been in fucking Shanghai.
Yeah.
It was that different. So we've done it. We've seen it. Now, obviously, we've seen it work as well. So I want to kind of, in this episode, help people, like, prevent them from blowing everything up in that move and, like, illustrate 3 different ways that we've seen it happen. One being the most dangerous, which is what we see the most often, and ways around it.
Let's go.
Launch into
Sounds
that.
good.
So you're making money. Studio One is humming. You're getting a bit bored. So you think, let's open another one. Happens all the time, right?
Shiny object syndrome.
Like, the growth feels exciting, right? Like, it's awesome. Like, we've got people in our academy right now that's like, we've got more people in the 6 a.m. class, so much so we've got to put a 5 a.m. on, right? And then the members go, you should open a second one. Go on. You should open a second one.
How hard can it be?
And their friends around, they go, oh, fuck, mate, you should do a, insert other format. If you could do this, you could do that. It almost feels like it's the next obvious and logical step. But, the pressure from the members, the staff, and even your ego, like, it can be a bit of delusion as well. Yeah. I reckon the line for us that we talk about a lot is if Studio One is still dependent on you, Studio 2, it'll double your job.
Yeah.
And you're still not a business owner yet. You're just a high-paying employee with 2 addresses. So, question for you. Why do you reckon so many studio owners jump into a second location before they're ready?
I think it's shiny object syndrome.
Right.
I said it before. I think there gets to a point in your business where the way I run our business here is I want a boring business. And what does that mean? Like, these numbers hit KPIs and those numbers hit KPIs, and over the course of the weeks and the month, things just tick up, right?
Yeah.
Some entrepreneurs, they're addicted to chaos. They're addicted to fast growth. They're addicted to new challenges, new things. And they see their business growing. They see it growing steadily.
Yeah.
And they look for the next challenge instead of just like working on what's repeating in their business. And if you're growing by 10, 15 members a month, in 6 months' time, that's a lot of members that are going to be extra members that are going to be in your studio. You don't need to pull out any trick shots to put on a lot more members and make a lot more money. But it's not as exciting as a new fit out or a new concept or designing a new logo.
So let me ask you a question. What do you think is sexier? One really good studio that spits out profit all the time, or multiple studios that have, let's say, opportunities to get better, but not quite there yet?
Look,
and you had to pick a side.
They're both the right answers, but if I had to pick a side, I'd pick one killer studio.
I don't agree.
Ooh, why not?
I'm an impact guy. So if I pick one studio, let's say we got at the to 350.
Those is the guy who made us pick our second studio.
Yeah. If we got to like 350 in the one,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a great business, that's awesome. It ticks a lot of like logical boxes for me. And yeah, like the accountants are happy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what's more exciting than 350 is like 3,500.
Mm.
For me, I'm an impact guy. Like I want to see how many people we can impact. And yeah, like if it means that there's a couple of dogs in that portfolio, like let's say it's 10 studios, they're all at 350 each. I mean, rarely do we really see that happen, by the way. Let's just be honest. Like whenever we've worked with multi-studio owners, whenever we try and call them, they're in between fire to fire, right?
Yeah.
They're always on the road.
Yeah.
Some episode, and like the running joke is they're always on speakerphone because they're in between studios, and it's like once it's this studio, then it's that studio, then it's that fucking studio. It's like whack-a-mole. It's
You
like
call them
whack-a-mole.
around Christmas time. They've got 7 fucking Christmas parties to go to back to back.
Yeah.
They don't love it then.
Yeah. So look, there's definitely a better way to do it, which we're going to unpack in this episode. But I don't want anyone to think that we're shitting on multis because as an impact guy, like I love the idea of it. Like I love the idea of it. I love the idea of the leverage that we can bring through having like, one marketing person across 3, 4, 6 studios versus like a quarter of a person working on one.
Yeah.
I just think there's definitely more than just having one good studio, if that's the way you want to go. But it's not the way that we're seeing it play out more often than not, which we're going to unpack.
If you get it right, there's a chance to play a much bigger game. But where I'm going to push back on this, if you haven't fucking nailed it in your first studio, what gives you the right to think you're going to nail it when you got 10? Well, it doesn't get easier.
So what are the biggest lies that people tell themselves before they scale?
The first mistake they make is like everyone looks at the top line, the potential, the opportunity first, right? They go, cool, okay, like I've got 300 members now, I'll have 600.
Yeah.
They go straight to that.
Yeah.
And they skip over the fact where there's a whole new team and there's a whole new fucking landlord and lease. There's a whole new like pre-sell. There's a whole new like scale up of their new business before they start to make any money. Their first 3, 6, 9 months, however long it takes, they're actually losing money every month until they hit that sort of break-even point. They gloss over that and they think that they're just doubling the revenue straight away. Whereas initially it's a doubling of costs and time and effort. Those efficiencies, they don't kick in till much later. So what worked really well for us when we did our 2 studios is we had a great studio, and we bought a bit of a dog studio, a bit of a challenge studio. It took a lot of time to get it up to that level where we had two good studios. Like how we got the efficiency at that point, we still had a strong manager at 2 studios, but we almost run them as one business. We'd have the one meeting, and we set like our sales targets were for both teams. Our boat chat was a combined number for 2 teams. So we found a way, even with 2 different managers, to galvanize them around the one target. We had centralized sales, centralized marketing, that centralized leadership model, and that's what effectively allowed us to scale 2 studios.
Because otherwise what happens is what we call the second studio syndrome. So let's talk a little bit about that. It's not normally the second studio that kills people. It's the first studio, their darling, it blows up.
Yeah, particularly this really happens when it's a 1 to 2 thing, right? Because one is all about you, right? You opened the front door.
Oh, you're so amazing.
Yeah.
You're so amazing.
You are the fucking face of the community.
Yeah.
You're at every challenge party. You are like that gym is all about you, and your fucking ego loves that, right? That first gym is all about you. You go to the second one, and all of a sudden they don't know you from Adam. And you're solving a lot of problems, and you don't have that tailwind of goodwill and whoever you are in that community,
They
right?
fucking hated us when we turned up to the second studio. Absolutely rejected us.
So there's a bit of work to do there. All of a sudden, back at HQ, back at number 1, everyone's like, I haven't seen Bob for a while. What's
Bob doesn't love us anymore.
Oh yeah, Bob's the place. That new shoot.
Yeah.
That new show.
The other one's a favorite.
Yeah, the other
now.
one. Yeah. And all of a sudden, like it doesn't burn down overnight, but like where you used to be when your churn was 2%, it might go to 4 or 5%. Your visits might go down from 4 a week to 3 a week or 2 a week. So it's just some things start to look erode a little bit, and then but you're at studio 2. So you go, oh, okay, look, it's still the churn's okay, like it's manageable, it's fine. I've got to solve these problems here. I'm solving leads, I'm solving sales. Like the community hates us here. Like you're working on number 2.
Yeah.
Next time you turn around at number 1, you've had a 20% rollover week and an 8% churn.
And your team feels abandoned.
Yeah.
And that's the sort of stuff that you can't see on a spreadsheet. Is like your team kind of feels like they're not the favorites anymore.
Yes.
We see it all the time, dude.
Yeah. And then what happens? Then you bounce back to Studio 1. And then Studio 2, like just as they get a little bit of momentum, the community started to form, and all of a sudden, like, hold on, where did Bob go?
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck? They're back at Studio One.
Back to one.
Yeah.
And then it's just this up and down game.
Mm.
It's just this up and down game. And the systems that were working before, what you've realized when you split your attention is that
Only working because it was you.
It was only working because it was you.
Yeah.
And it's actually just held together by a bit of rubber band and duct tape and fucking chewing gum. It wasn't a business. It was just you were writing off your X factor.
Yeah.
So
let's talk high level.
Okay.
Let's talk high level. Like, how do you think you know when someone's sort of ready? We're talking about systems, we're talking about people, we're talking about leadership. Do you have a framework for how you maybe think about how someone is ready to maybe take that plunge where they can systemize their business?
Super easy. It's basically like what level they're in, like level 1, level 2, or level 3. And in my mind, you're really only ready when you're at the top of level 3.
What are these levels?
Okay. So these are the 3 different levels of business when it comes to growing these studios or any kind of business, right? And this is also where your revenue caps out and when we typically see people hit the pain line. So level 1 in their business, it's all about making money. Like your devil at that level is money. You don't have enough of it. You get to the end of the month and you're still trying to sell a ski erg or a reformer bed to pay for your trainers. At that point, the things that you need to solve up until probably 0 to break even is how to get money in the door. So that it's like unblocking lead flow, understanding your avatar, finding a shit hot offer and making fucking sales and keeping those people in the building, right? So typically from 0 to about break even, studios don't have a big churn problem. And we can see that with, sub 5% churn rates. That's not a problem. That's fine up until that level, okay? So it's a lot of avatar, leads, sales, tracking. Avatar, leads, sales, tracking.
Yeah.
Until you get to the point where you've solved
the acquisition,
the money problems.
Yeah.
You're not looking for $5 in the back of the couch to pay for your trainers that month.
And typically, I think from the studios I talk to every day, it's about at that 100, 150 member point. So you kind of hustle your way up to 150. And then by that stage, you're around that sort of break-even point.
Yeah.
You're making some money on the acquisition.
Yeah. And that 150 number, that's before we started working with, there's other formats that we work with now, like Pilates, yoga, even dance, pole dancing, and these PT studios. We love these PT studios. They might not need 150, but it's somewhere around whatever the break-even is. Now, we've all been there. That's the hustle.
The hustle zone.
It's kind of fun for a bit at the start, but you can't stay here. You die here until you get to level 2. Now, how do we know we need to get to level 2? Well, we're starting to work on needing to bring people into the business because you're getting too fucking busy. So level 2, your devil at level 2 is burnout. So how you solve for burnout is it's going to come down to a factor of you got to be making sure you're working on the right things with the right team, the 2 T's, things and team. Okay. So how we work through level 2 is we've got to start systemizing your business. We start hiring people, bringing in effectively like spare parts, your admin person, your salesperson, and start assembling the start of a team get you off the floor and to work on the business and work on systemizing the business. At this level, we're going to start building playbooks and start multiplying you out of things. Otherwise, if you don't do that, you are going to hard code yourself into a fucking jail, not a business. And how do we know whether you've got one or the other? Well, if I extract you out of your business and take you to Hawaii with me for a couple of weeks, what happens?
Well, it needs to grow. Otherwise, you don't have a business.
Yeah. So that's the holy grail, right? Is a business that can operate and grow without you. That's in level 2. Like a lot of our clients are in level 2 right now. We're systemizing their business. We're bringing in playbooks. We're teaching them how to play books. Believe it or not, there's a playbook for how to play book so that you can bring someone in and go, here's how to do the thing. And it happens most times.
Yeah.
Now, you'll get to the top of level 2. And how do you know you've hit a new pain line? Well, your revenue doesn't grow. And you're effectively a high paid manager of your own business. So what needs to happen for you to get to the next level? And the next level, the top of the next level is that you've got a business that's under management.
What does that mean, under management?
It means that if you want to, you could actually run your business from a hammock and a spreadsheet for about 30 minutes to an hour a week, if you want to, right? So it doesn't require you. Your manager is what we would call a driver in your business. They can drive the business forward under your leadership. So that's a bit of a clue there. The people that we have in level 3 of our academy right now, they're working on their leadership. They're working on their vision. They're working on their ideal team design. They're assembling their dream team, like the team that's going to take them to Hawaii, the team that's going to take them into the future and do really big things. So they've solved how to get money in the door. They've solved who's doing what and like the right structures in place, which is a level 2 thing, and to make sure that the KPIs are hit more often than not. And they've also done the ultimate replacement, which they've replaced themselves as the manager to themselves as the business owner that has a business under management with another manager in there.
Okay. So where does a second studio fit in with that framework?
Level 3.
No.
You don't reckon?
No, I don't reckon. I think it's sooner. Based on whether some of these owners can tick off the majority of things on, are you ready for your second studio checklist?
Where's this checklist?
Well, I'll share it with you right now.
Go.
Okay. So the first thing, absolute non-negotiable, your first studio has to be making 30% net profit. 30%
A month.
a month. Okay. If you don't know what your profit is, if you're looking at your revenue instead of your profit, like you need to have your first studio, and not just once, like consistently spitting out 30% net profit.
Yeah, not like a challenge month.
No. You sell some challenge tickets, you eke to 31% out and you buy a second studio. No, it needs to be spitting out 30% net profit month on month. Okay. That's the first sign that you're actually ready for this, and that studio 1 is fairly systemized. Okay. The second thing is you can't be in the daily delivery as studio 1.
What does that mean?
So daily delivery means you can't be the X factor of that one studio. Okay. So if everyone's favorite class is at 7 o'clock because you run it, I'd say you're in the daily delivery.
Fuck. Yeah. I reckon those first 2 things we've knocked out most of the people that we've spoken to about the second studio.
So the third thing is that you've got, the whole thing about level 2 is about systems and dashboards, okay? Scorecards, systems, dashboards, KPIs. That is a level 2 thing. These need to be in place before you do the second studio, okay? So it's something that we address at level 2, and when you pass that particular checkpoint, you're actually ready for the second studio. Something as well, like you can't just leave studio 1. You can't abandon studio 1. You need a really reliable leader in that studio.
That you've built the profile up of that person, right?
Yeah. You said the word before, driver. Okay. So that they need to be able to drive that business forward. Again, you're not delegating the outcome to them and wish them all the best. You're still leading that business, but they're driving the outcome. They know how many sales to hit each week. They know how many rollers to go for. They know what to do with the churn, and they're reporting to you.
The members need to know that they're actually paying for your standards, not your presence.
Yeah.
At one. Otherwise, when you disappear, like we're seeing it happen right now with like the gym that my wife goes to, right? It's like they're opening number 2 and there's a bit of like talk around about like, oh, does that mean we're losing this person? And it's just interesting, the language is like we're losing. It's like they died.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. This is like they've invested in you this whole time. So what comfort are you giving the members of Studio 1 that you're elevating, you're not abandoning them?
Yeah, big time. The next one is consistent sales. Like sales is a level 1 thing.
100%.
Like if that's not happening, then like you're not even ready for a level 2 thing yet. So like just sales. It has to happen. It has to be consistent. Okay.
Not a good week. Like there's not good weeks and challenge weeks. It's like it just
happens.
To your point, your sale a day, every day, fucking boring.
Yeah, boring business because you're making steady, consistent sales. The next thing is around churn engagement. Okay, you want that community to be rock solid. If it's still up and down all over the shop, maybe you've got a really good sales engine. You're putting 10 people in a week. If 10 people are cancelling a week, you ain't ready for your second studio. That's something that you really have to attack in that first year. You need community 1 solid before you worry about building community 2 because it ain't gonna be easy.
Now, is that just a vibe and a feel, or
is that sessions,
or is that a number that I'm looking for?
It's a number.
Yeah.
It's a number. Like for me, the number that's going to tell me that is engagement, right? We want everyone in your gym on average is training 3 times a week. That's a pretty good indication that you've got a great product and a great community, and they're engaged.
Yeah.
You know? If it's dipping down to 1s and 2s, there's going to be people at risk. Yeah, because in those numbers, that's an average, right?
Yeah.
So there's all the heroes who do 6 sessions a week,
and then the zeros,
and there's some 0s and 1s.
There's the heroes and the zeros.
Here's the heroes and the zeros. So yeah, so like on average, 3s and 4s a week is that to me tells me that you've got a strong community.
And churn, like, the average churn rate we have in the academy is 2.3%, I think. Yeah. That's elite. For studios that have got hundreds and hundreds of members. What churn number would you start getting worried about?
Anything over 5 is a bit of a red flag.
Yeah. And that's not just in a winter month. That's just a normal month, right?
Normal month. And that's why I like talking about engagement. That's a bit of a precursor to that churn number. So you'll get a heads up on that one. The next one is sort of related to profit.
Yeah.
Something a lot of owners don't think about is having a cash reserve. As I said, like everyone goes straight to the top line, 2 gyms, 2 times revenue. For a long time, you're going to have to carry that cost. It's going to be 2 times the cost before you worry about doubling the revenue and the profit. Okay. So like you need a buffer. You need a buffer. I'd say at least 3 months. At least 3 months buffer.
Now, hang on a second. So you said 30% profit and 3 months cash reserves. Is this like instead of paying myself?
No, absolutely not. I think you need that's just a Band-Aid solution. You need to be able to pay yourself and equip yourself for the next business. Otherwise, if you don't pay yourself and you go into the next business, you go into the next business and you haven't paid yourself. Like that's not a business. Yeah, you need to do things properly.
What if it's not? Like, so what is it if it's not a business?
It's a job. Yeah.
That you're not getting paid for?
It's a job you're not getting paid for. It's a charity.
Right.
We're not in this for charity, guys. We're in this to get a fair return for our time, our investment, and what we're putting into these things. So if the only way for you to get into your second studio is not to pay yourself, I'd say that's a red flag about if it's the right time to make that move or not.
Right. Okay. So 3 months cash reserves. That was your 7th point.
And look, and to work that out is, like what's the rent? How much is it going to cost it to staff it up, team it up? And that's the number. Look, you don't need to worry about exactly how much the bloody heart rate monitors are going to cost you each month. Just look at the big ones.
Your Canvas subscription.
Yeah,
that's not the issue.
Yeah, your Canvas is $14 a month or whatever.
I think you've got to have like 2 lead gen systems in place, not just relying on ads. I remember when we moved into the second studio, we just rolled in with ads, right? And it didn't work for a while because it was a whole new market, a different avatar. So we tried to like copy paste 10 minutes down the road and it fucking flunked.
Yeah.
Now, if we didn't have a second way to bring people in the business, we would have been fucking cooked. We would have been cooked. So, without diving into it too much, we had emails going off. We had like SMS campaigns. We had like grassroots stuff cranking. So like there was other ways that people could find out about it. So I remember when we did our first email campaign, do you remember Guy Sebastian?
Yeah.
He responded to me saying, fuck off. Like he did not like the email at all. And I responded and go, I fucking voted for you, man. So the 8th thing I would say would be like to have a second lead flow as a bit of insurance. Because what if the ads don't work as a supposed straight away. Now that's 8. Number 9 is personal bandwidth. What
do you mean by that?
I mean like, and I'm just reflecting on the people that we've spoken to so far that are already kind of pushed to their limits with number 1 and they're still not maxing that out and they've gone to 2. And I'm just thinking, you don't actually have the bandwidth yet. Like there's one thing to kind of like, do I believe in you? But one of the things that we've changed in terms of how we hire people is we hire people based on proof, not potential. If everything was on potential, we could be astronauts. Like we've got the potential to be astronauts. Yep. I could have the potential to play in the NBA, but like it's just not where I'm at. So personal bandwidth is like, do you actually have time in the day? Do you have the headspace? How many times are you saying you're burnt out or overwhelmed during the week? Like if any of those things are starting to happen, I don't think you're ready for it yet. So that's 9 things. So like, do they need to hit 9 out of 9 or
7 out of 9?
7.
7 out of 9, I reckon you're ready. So yeah, for me, you don't need to be level 3 just yet. Like if you're if you're a level 2 owner and you're 7 out of 9 things on that checklist, you're probably ready to take the plunge. And if you're not there yet, then work on your level 2 problems. Work on those things.
So I'm going to talk about 3 paths to Studio 2. And then when I say Studio 2, it could also mean 3, 4, 5, whatever. It's just there's 3 paths to scaling that we've typically seen. And I am going to name some names. I'm going to call number 1 the Tribe method. So shout out to Capo and Ange and the legends down there at Tribe. Great gym. My wife trains there, 900 members, 2.3% churn. Fucking legends. It's such an institution where we live and they run a great show. Remember when I took Capo out for coffee the first time, I said, dude, how come? I've always wondered, why is it taking you so long to open your second studio? He goes, I haven't perfected it yet. I go, what? What? He goes, yeah, it's taken me 11 years to perfect it.
Yeah.
Well, how did you know you've perfected it? And he just rattled off all these metrics. And I was like, okay, like now, as of like breaking news, as of like this week, they've opened number 2 and they've pre-sold most of their tiers. Like I know they're going to multiply the amazing thing that they've done with Tribe 1 in Tribe 2, and he probably wants 5 of them. Okay. So it's careful. It's considered. If I had to knock on it, it's probably a bit slow. A bit slow on the careful. Like it's a bit slow for ADD people like myself, but if you've got the time, the money, and the depth of leadership, because I know Capo was like, he's been like, for the last year, they've been bringing in extra people. They've been bringing in extra staff. They've like been like really, building up their bench strength to be able to train them to the standards.
Remember the Capo episode? He was saying
Can't
like
unleash
his KPI is building his team, and he's trains each staff member for 6 months.
Fully documented playbooks. Yeah. They've delayed the second site until that first one runs like a machine. And it's at the point now where it's like he's bought, like he also wanted to buy the location, like the actual real estate. So there's a bit of a real estate play there as well. So like definitely some big ticks from us on that. If I had to mention anything, it'd probably be on the slower but more careful side of things.
But like the biggest tick for me is like the question of will that work? Like it's almost a slam dunk. It's almost guaranteed to work.
It's almost guaranteed to work. Yeah. Now there's the way that we did it, which we moved quick, right? Our favorite speed is faster. We had enough systems to make it work. We definitely hit some potholes along the way, and we just kind of worked around that. We had the cash flow mapped out, the offers cloned, albeit to a different avatar. It definitely wasn't perfect.
No.
A bit sloppy in some areas, but it was good enough to get 2 studios maxed out and then eventually exit both.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the second way. Like we definitely had the cash flow forecast. We had some reserves. We had a leader in number 1. So when we went into number 2, it was more about building that up whilst we also kind of maintain that and the standard over there.
Yeah.
And through the leverage of social media, we were still present in both.
Correct.
And as you mentioned, like we treated both together and we kind of transplanted some culture from one to the other. Although number 2 rejected a lot of our culture. Remember when we did the hotspots and we brought in the ski ergs that we accidentally had before we were allowed to have them? I don't know how they got there, but like
I remember
it wasn't the same.
It wasn't the same. The thing that cracked me up, the first time we walked into our second studio to do a session, right? Remember when they started doing the warm up and the whole class is just like staring at the TV and we're like, where are the trainers? Why aren't the trainers warming up the class? Why is everyone just staring at the TV? It was so
like
weird.
They were in
a trance.
A trance.
Yeah. That checklist that I read out before, we didn't. Just to be clear, we didn't have that when we went from 1 to 2. That checklist is sort of, we had about half of them, and then the other half we sort of worked out the hard way.
Yeah. So that's how we would do it differently this time,
Correct.
Right? We wouldn't allow each other 7 out of 9, which brings me to the third type of people that we see a lot of, and this is what I would probably call the opportunity chaser. Unplanned and dangerous.
Ooh.
A lease pops up. It does. Fuck. Oh, God, dude, I've got an amazing site across the road. Oh, it looks so fucking cool. It looks so cool. And they're giving it to us for half the price, or they're giving us the biz, or fuck, I want to open something over there and it's not quite what we do here, but I know I could do it. And like all our members are saying like, we should do it. We should do it. We should do it. Is it like it's a deal too good to say no to, right? Like Studio One is not ready. Team's not ready. They're not hitting 3 green lights. They're nowhere near like our leaderboards on like top 10 in any parts of our academy. You aren't ready as the owner. This is the segment that we see the highest failure rates. Why is that?
I guess the straight up answer is that they're not ready. They don't have a systemized business. They might not be level 2. You know, they might be a high level 1. A good entry price doesn't guarantee a good exit.
Wow.
And like, yes, entry price is important, but it's not the be all and end all.
Now, let's pretend it's like, what if I've already signed the lease and I've just gone through your checklist and I'm a fucking 3 out of 9 at best. Well, but I've already signed the lease. So now what, dude?
Fucking, well, balls to the wall. Like you got to make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to fucking make it work. Go back to that fucking checklist and you got to retrofit. You got to like, fast.
Yeah.
Go back, listen to our podcast episode on deep work. Like your fucking mission is your one thing right now is to get yourself ready for that second studio.
Yeah, 100%. I would almost consider that like you're not scaling. If you've got that second lease before you were 7 out of 9 on that readiness checklist, you're not scaling, you're stabilizing. Right? We've got to get, this is wartime energy CEO now. Like we've got to get Studio One stable to the point where like you are hitting your KPIs properly and you're putting in pretty quickly a leader in place over there so that you can go to number 2 and take on that battle over there in number 2. Even if it's only across the road, 15 minutes away, it doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter. It almost doesn't matter. You need a triage plan, not a marketing plan. At the moment, right? So I've got I've got a few steps here that if you're listening to this episode and you're somewhere between 1 and 2 and you've already got the lease and now you've just realized that you might not have been ready, but you've got it. You've got 2 screaming kids.
Yep.
What do we do? Okay. So what you said, step 1 is scoreboard saves lives. We've got to put a fucking scoreboard in place. And I like what you said around like it's a combined scorecard because it's like it is 2 businesses in one now, right? And I don't literally mean like if you got 10 leads in one and 15 leads in the other that week, you don't put 25 in. Like they are just 2, like because the way that we set it up is we had like one studio and second studio like up above each other. And you're effectively, by osmosis, you're trying to combine the culture of both studios, at least at a leadership and a personnel level. Not necessarily at a member level because they, quite often we've seen they kind of reject each other. So one master dashboard that shows at a glance your leads generated this week, your intro offers sold, your rollover percentage, one versus the other, your churn, your revenue in, revenue out, your attendance health, to your point around like we want to see that 3 or above, and like a metric around your team performance, okay? You've got to make this visible to your key leaders, certainly at a weekly view, and ideally you're talking about it every single day. Like if I'm a team member in that second studio, or certainly in that first studio, like I need to feel that there's been a shift in intensity around like, fuck, we're taking on 2 battles now at once. Something
I loved about the 2 leaders we had in our studios, even though, they had totally different communities, totally different KPIs, but they actually worked together. On them, which is awesome.
Yeah. So that brings me to my next point is around team formation and like team communication. I think where we're seeing this become a disaster is when an owner who isn't ready yet gets number 2 and hasn't brought the team along the journey as to why we're doing that. And if team in number 1 is already kind of fighting for scrap to get some communication and some leadership in one, and then to see that person go off and open number 2 or like take over number 2, and you're like, well, fuck, there's no hope now. It's like if there's ever a time where it needs to go from like 4 out of 10 to like 11 out of 10 in terms of communication, leadership, standards, management, it's now.
Yep.
So if you haven't already, if you're listening to this and you've already gone from 1 to 2 and now you've realized, fuck, I might not have been ready. Okay. The emergency plan is you've got to like restack your roster and get your A team on the front line, particularly at Studio 1. You know, particularly if we've seen people go for, we did the same thing. We took half of our best and put them into number 2, and then they both were shit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until we're like, do you know what? 2 needs to be self-sufficient. We've got to bring back our A team and leave them in 1 to make sure that's still going up. And we need to build a team in 2.
Yeah.
So that otherwise you're going to have your best people split between 2 sides, and it's a problem, right? It was a problem for us.
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard for. Yeah, so Soph did a pretty good job to remember 330 people's names, but then throw another couple hundred on that. It was tough.
So there's some tactical moves here is like pull your strongest players, you know, sales, retention, energy, like in your main studio that needs to keep paying the bills. And if it's not paying the bills, it needs to it needs to work. Like if you haven't figured it out yet on Studio 1, 6 months of having 2 studios is not going to help anything.
No.
Freaks me out to think that that's even a possibility. So I would appoint a temporary or an acting manager or a captain. We used to call them captains, okay? Or even acting captains, so no one gets freaked out. And in Studio 1 so that you can spend more time in Studio 2 or vice versa, right? In Studio 2. Like, and maybe there's a quick win there. Like we saw one in Studio 2 where like...
There was 5 or 6 in the staff that we inherited. We showed up for the first team meeting and there was one person there, and she was the 9:15 girl. I think she did two 9:15s a week. She was an absolute spare part, totally left on the bench by the other team. The old team were bullying people. They're just toxic culture. As soon as we rolled in with a bit of this is how we do things in a proper business, they went, oh, yuck.
Yeah.
So they bailed, and then Mel was on.
Yeah. And at the time, remember, like Mel was like, again, she was the 9:15 specialist. And what did she do with the rest of the week? She was doing some shifts at like, it was like a boxing gym around the corner. And she was, you know, been led on to be their manager, which she wanted. And we were like, well, hang on, the fucking no-brainer here. How does someone miss this? We've got like the best person who is trying to be a manager at a different studio. Yeah. It's like, well, why don't we just like try the manager at this studio?
Yeah.
Because we're missing some people right now. And like, I think you've got what it takes. And so fast forward, she took us to full, in that particular studio. So you've got to put some leadership structures in place, or at least some captains in place. And then you've got to clearly define who owns what KPI. What's a KPI? It's a key performance indicator. Like, people have to be in charge of some stuff. And like, that's a big culture shift. But that's the only way forward, isn't it? Like, there's some uncomfortable conversations that might need to happen, but it's the only fucking way. We talk about like Capo, there's KPIs everywhere. Like down to the guy that like mops the floors and fixes the benches. There's KPIs everywhere, and that's how you have a high performing team. So now, once you've got some leadership in place, you've got a scorecard, some leadership in place, and you've got some teams hitting KPIs, or at least they are aware of their KPIs. It has got to be, back to the 3 levels, like it has got to be foot on the throat, an obsession on making sales, like making sure sales are still coming through the door, whilst at the same time, particularly at number 2, member love. So, revenue, like generating revenue will buy you time at both these studios. While you're buying time, you can actually get in there and like talk, in particular in Studio 2, talk with your new members about like, what do you love? Why'd you come in the first place? Why have you stayed in the first place? And like, what are some quick wins that you're looking for to just get on the right side of these guys? Like, we talk about it all the time, like doing a 60-second survey with Studio 2 to find out, some quick wins that you can roll out that like people love you for it, right? And then it starts to build a positive momentum around this. You also want to get in there and find out who your avatars are in there so that you can go and find the next 50 really quickly. Otherwise, if you're just going to trade off vibes and an open day here and there, it's going to be fucking slow and the clock is ticking. So that is how I do it. So you're conducting one-on-ones with like 50 members. You're over-delivering like fucking hell, whilst at the same time making sure that your leader back in place in Studio 1 is moving the ball forward. Yep. If you do all this, you'll stop the bleed. And there's a positive side of this, which is like what happens when both studios get to level 2 and both studios get to level 3. Now, when we see that happen, what do the owners get to enjoy when both studios are at level 3?
The freedom, bro. Time, freedom, money. But yeah, it's mainly that time. Yeah. And then they go and do it at a third studio. And they
go back into it again. Yeah. So look, how I want to round this out is like scaling without systems is suicide. Growth without leadership is chaos. But if you move fast, focus on your numbers and like rally your team and bring them along the journey, like having multiple studios and like impacting hundreds, if not thousands, is that's a dream for a lot of people. And I can totally see that. And you can still win, but you've got to do it the right way and in the right order. So if someone's just done the checklist and they're somewhere like less than 7 out of 9, have we got some stuff that we can talk to them about if they book in a call with us?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've got something called a free 3-step action plan, and we'll shine a light on where to start on addressing some of those things in your checklist. Yeah. And give you tactical things on what you need to do and how you need to do it. Yeah. And if we can help you, great. Otherwise, we can show you what to do. Yeah,
there's heaps of stuff that they can do. Well, we show people every single day stuff that they can do without us. Yeah. Right? Like, and the more and more stuff we put out on podcasts, the more and more stuff we're doing on our YouTube, and like we've got lead mate, like we've got things out there. So you can definitely do some stuff without us. If you want to have a chat to the team about getting one of these 3-step action plans, because I would imagine if you're somewhere between Studio 1 and 2 and you're less than 7 out of 9, it's kind of an emergency. Yeah. Message me Studio 2 over at Instagram, instagram.com/hey.dozer. Message me Studio 2 and we'll send you a bit of an action plan for that. I reckon the next episode we'll talk to them about the anatomy of a winning playbook. Ooh. That's going to help them. Really
that's a fucking level 2 thing.
Yeah, that's definitely level 2 thing. All right, guys. Love you lots. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. If something resonated with you, then do one of 2 things. Either leave a review or send this episode to a mate who's in the industry who might need to hear this. But if you want more right now, because your head might be spinning and you're like, all right, what the hell do I do right now? then in the show notes, you'll find a link to where you can book in for a free 15-minute checkup on your studio, where we get to have a look at how you're going right now and where some of the kind of quick win opportunities are to get you moving faster. I can't wait to be back in your ears next week. And if you're listening to this right now, I want you to know that I love you, I appreciate you, I'm grateful for you, and I'm in your corner. You are on the right track and I believe in you. So keep going, and I'll see you next week.